Back in 1921, over 10,000 coal miners declared war on their own country. Let's learn all about it on a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but is really true, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name's Michael Kent. This is episode 242. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have Matt Donnelly joining us here in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. Welcome to new Tizitor Brian to the Patreon. Your sticker's in the mail. Once again, if you're listening and you want to be a super fan of the show, join the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's where you pay to join at any level you want. You can pay $1, you can pay $10, whatever you want. And for that, you get bonuses. You get ad-free early episodes, discounts on merch, access to Joke Story Trick, my web show that I did during the pandemic. Lots of fun stuff on there. Anyway, that's patreon.com/Michael Kent. Join today. We've got a new review on Apple Podcasts. This one is in all caps. It just says, "I love this." So thank you. That was left by user DNCJDJSNXMZOZJFNC. I don't know what that stands for, but I'm going to declare it's an acronym for Delightfully Nerdy Commenter Just Dropped Jokes, Sarcasm News, Zennial Musings, Zingers, Observations, Zeal, Jargon, Fun, Nerdy Commentary. So thanks for that. I'm glad you love this. I'm going to keep doing my best to bring you stories every week. Please rate and review this podcast. Just go to the Apple Podcasts app. That's, helps more people listen by boosting this show in the algorithm. So this story is about a forgotten war that took place not on foreign soil, but here in the United States. And not a war between states or nations, a war between workers and companies that profited from their lives. A battle so intense it required machine guns, trench warfare, aerial bombs, and over 1 million rounds of ammunition, all to decide whether or not coal miners had the right to unionize. Let's get into it. What happens when you mix economic exploitation, armed labor resistance, and a literal mountain range full of angry workers? You get a forgotten war, one that we're only just starting to remember. To understand just how wild the Battle of Blair Mountain really was, I want to start with something you've probably seen in the news over the last few years: modern labor fights. Today we've got workers at Amazon warehouses fighting for their rights to unionize. We've got baristas at Starbucks voting to join national unions. There have been walkouts at Google, a nationwide strike from auto workers, nurses, teachers, rail workers. Nearly every labor sector in America has had some kind of organizing activity since 2020. It's a national movement. And even now, in 2024, those workers are often met with serious resistance, firings, legal delays, corporate surveillance. There are companies spending millions of dollars hiring what they call union avoidance consultants. And yes, that's a real job title. But here's the thing. As brutal as modern labor fights can be, they don't usually involve machine guns or aerial bombs or trenches in the hills. But in 1921, they did. Let's go back. At the start of the 20th century, coal was king. Everything, factories, trains, homes, ran on coal, and West Virginia had a lot of it. Towns were built practically overnight to support the mining industry. These weren't organic communities, they were company towns, entirely constructed and controlled by the coal operators. The company owned the housing, the company owned the stores, the schools, the doctors, the police, and most importantly, the payroll. And that payroll wasn't in US dollars. Workers were paid in something called scrip, a company-issued currency that was only usable at company stores. So even though you were paid, you couldn't take that money and leave. You could only spend it at inflated prices in your company's store. It was sort of a closed loop. Workers were essentially indentured. Now combine that with some of the most dangerous working conditions in the country. Coal mines were incredibly unsafe. Between 1890 and 1910, mining accidents killed tens of thousands of workers. In 1907 alone, over 3,200 miners died. Explosions, gas leaks, cave-ins, it was a deadly profession. There were no federal regulations, no OSHA, no real accountability. Naturally, miners started organizing. The United Mine Workers of America, or UMWA, was formed in 1890. Their goal was simple: fight for better wages, shorter hours, and safer conditions. But the coal companies were ready for them. They responded with violence. That's where the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency comes in. Now, if you're imagining the Pinkertons, you're close. The The Baldwin-Felts detectives were private security agents hired by coal operators to suppress union activity. They carried guns, they spied on organizers, they beat union leaders, they evicted entire families from their homes if they suspected them of organizing. Sometimes they did more than that. Let's take a quick detour to the town of Matewan, West Virginia. In May of 1920, Baldwin-Felts agents showed up to evict union-supporting miners from their homes, but they were confronted by a local police chief named Sid Hatfield. If that last name sounds familiar, yes, Sid was part of the famous Hatfield family from the famous Hatfield-McCoy feud, and Sid Hatfield wasn't about to let some outside men come into his town with rifles and start kicking people out of their homes. So when the Baldwin-Felts agents started throwing people into the street, Sid Hatfield and the Matewan mayor tried to arrest them. A shootout followed. 10 men died, including 2 of the agents. It was a bloodbath in broad daylight. Sid Hatfield became an instant folk hero to miners all over Appalachia. He was young, brash, and stood up to the coal barons. But the victory was short-lived. The next year, in August 1921, Sid Hatfield was assassinated. He was shot on the courthouse steps in Welch, West Virginia by Baldwin-Felts agents. No one was convicted. And this was the spark. Because while labor organizing had been simmering in southern West Virginia for decades, this was the final insult. Miners who had served in World War I, men who had risked their lives for their country, were watching their friends and families be killed just for trying to unionize. And they'd had enough. In late August 1921, over 10,000 coal miners began organizing what they called the Miners' March, an armed march across the state toward Logan County, where the most anti-union coal fields were located. And it wasn't just a protest. These men wore military uniforms, they carried rifles, they used wartime tactics, they had officers' logistics, signals. Many of them were trained veterans. They were not marching for attention, they were marching for justice. Standing in their way was Sheriff Don Chafin, a man bought and paid for by the coal companies. Chafin had fortified Blair Mountain, which was a 25-mile stretch of ridgeline between the miners and Logan County coal fields. He had 2,000 men, most of them deputized by the coal operators, armed with machine guns, rifles, and private planes. That's right, the coal companies had aircraft, and they were ready to use them. What followed was the largest armed labor uprising in American history, and one of the largest domestic insurrections since the Civil War. The Battle of Blair Mountain had begun. When we come back from the break, we'll see trench warfare, the bombs, and the government response. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Cliff Baumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE Podcast Experience on WCBE.org. You'll be happy you did.
There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE podcast experience at wcbe.org.
If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. August 25th, 1921. The first shots of the Battle of Blair Mountain were fired. The terrain was brutal, dense forests, steep ridges, narrow hollows, but the miners knew it. Many of them had grown up in these mountains. They approached Blair Mountain from multiple angles, attempting to flank Chaffin's forces. Over the next 10 days, the miners engaged in full-scale warfare with the anti-Union forces. And this wasn't just sporadic gunfire. This was sustained strategic combat. Chaffin's men used machine gun emplacements to hold key ridgelines. They had high ground and better communication. The miners dug trenches, they used scouts, and they even blew up trees with dynamite to create barriers. And then came the airplanes. The coal companies hired private pilots to drop homemade bombs on the miners. These included tear gas and pipe bombs made from scrap metal and explosives. At least one of the bombs was recovered later undetonated, and it was a legitimate aerial weapon on American soil, dropped by civilians on fellow citizens. Meanwhile, the miners held their ground. Some retreated and regrouped, others advanced. In some places, the fighting was hand-to-hand. In others, it was long-range sniper fire. Over 1 million rounds of ammunition were fired during this battle. And then the federal government got involved. President Warren G. Harding, under pressure from coal interests and fearing open rebellion, ordered the deployment of federal troops. 2,100 U.S. Army soldiers were sent into the region along with planes and military advisors. And when the miners saw the U.S. Army arriving, they stopped. Most of them were veterans. They didn't want to fight against their own military. They respected the flag, even as they were being trampled by corporations. Within days, the miners laid down their arms and began returning home. The final body count is still debated. Officially, about 16 men were killed, but historians now believe the number may be much higher, possibly 50 to 100 fatalities, with hundreds more wounded. In the aftermath, 985 miners were indicted for crimes including murder, treason, and insurrection. Many were imprisoned, some were acquitted. Over the next few years, the UMWA lost most of its foothold in southern West Virginia. The coal companies had won. The Union wouldn't recover in the region until the 1930s, when New Deal legislation finally gave workers stronger protections. But even then, the Battle of Blair Mountain was largely left out of the story. It wasn't taught in schools, it wasn't in textbooks. For decades, it was a shadow, a whispered piece of labor history. But it didn't disappear. In the 1990s, a group of historians and locals began fighting to have Blair Mountain recognized as a historical landmark. Archaeologists found bullets, weapon fragments, and trench systems along the ridges. It proved that the battle was real, it was extensive, and worth remembering. In 2009, the site was added to the National Register of Historic Places. But get this, 2 years later, it was delisted because of lobbying from coal companies who wanted to mine the mountain for its remaining coal. Activists fought back, lawsuits were filed, and finally, in 2018, Blair Mountain was relisted, officially protected as a historic battlefield. Today, you can hike parts of it. You can still see remnants of trenches, and you can walk where miners marched. There's even a mural downtown showing Sid Hatfield, the Hatfield from Matewan, defying the Baldwin Felts agents. And the thing that might be the most surreal part of this entire story is that there are still active battles being fought over workers' rights in the exact same region. Coal jobs have declined, of course, but poverty remains, and many of the same economic pressures, corporate control, worker exploitation, and suppressed wages, they still define that landscape. So what's the lesson here? It's not that violence solves labor disputes, it's that people will only endure injustice for so long before they fight back. And when the law, the courts, and the corporations are all aligned against them, sometimes their only option is to rise up. The Battle of Blair Mountain wasn't a tragedy, it was a stand. And for a moment, just a moment, thousands of everyday Americans reminded the country that justice isn't something you're handed, it's something you fight for. The internet says it's true. It's time for Yap Yap with me and a friend. Today I am talking with Matt, the Mind-Noodler Donnelly. So happy to have Matt back. He's been on the show a bunch, and for good reason. Matt is a comedian, a magician, a comedy writer, an accomplished improv actor, improv comedian, and currently touring. He's currently joining us, just like last week we had Jonathan Burns from a ship. We've got Matt Donnelly from a ship.
I think you're just putting out invites via ship, right?
I think that's what's happening. It's in your cabin. When you get to your cabin, it says your tech time is here, your show is here, your appearance on the internet says it's true. Will be at 1 p.m. It's just a standard thing. Because also Jay Black has joined me from many ships. So yeah, it's becoming a thing. Pretty soon my guests are going to be wondering, why am I not the one on the ship? It's because I'm at home doing podcasts. That's why. So where are you in the world today?
I have just left Aruba, and I'm
nice.
heading to New York City. I don't know if you've heard of it. They call it the Big Apple.
It's I think I didn't know that ships were still going there. So that must be that's amazing.
Everyone sings there the whole day. That's what everyone does there. They sing and dance.
Aruba to New York, where you can get off the ship, walk through Hell's Kitchen, get back on the ship. Hopefully it won't be raining. That's about it. You can go next door, visit the Intrepid Museum. That'll be nice.
Yeah. I actually am sticking around. I get off in New York, but I'm doing shows in Maryland and Delaware.
Wonderful.
On land when I get back, so I'm excited about that.
That's exciting. I'll be in Virginia on Saturday, doing an Army base. So, but I'm on vacation this week. So, starting Monday, I'm on when this podcast comes out. I'll be on vacation. I'm just going to the middle of the woods with some family in Michigan, and we're just gonna do all kinds of fun stuff.
Are you a big camper? You a big woods guy?
No, it's like an Airbnb. It's not a. It's glamping. Yeah, it's not. The woods will be around it, though. Does that count? Like, I'll be able to look out my window at the. We are.
I didn't think I was doing gotcha journalism on you. I wasn't trying to expose your
typical magician. I'm playing up the experience. This is like, the guys who when I was coming up in magic, the guys would literally take a classified out and ad out in the newspaper talking about how great they were, and then using their promo that newspaper said that quote.
Oh my god!
All kinds of
a weird technicality thing to do.
It is so weird. It's the fake it till you make it thing with the emphasis on the fake it part, and it's so not necessary anymore. That was a thing. I think maybe that was not necessary, but that was more common back in the days when it was a little bit harder to get exposure.
Yeah, but you know what? People don't talk about this fake it till you make it thing. It comes up a lot in almost any profession. And the truth is, sometimes you fake it and you don't make it. And then the faking's very embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, the faking in general, like the fake it till you make it thing should be more of like an internal mindset, like a confidence builder than an actual, using it in your promo.
Right.
I think most teenage magicians had a quote on their promo. Like, you weren't a teenage magician. Like, you weren't a magician until you were an adult. But teenage magicians coming up would have it on their promo, like, I think he's great. And it would be like, Michael's mom. Like, just as a joke, because if you don't have quotes, you have to have something. So, little things like that. That's acceptable. I think fake it till you make it until you have a quote.
We did the same with our improv team. We said like these guys are amazing, and it said Seinfeld said about the state. It's the Jerry Seinfeld underneath. It was about the state.
That's great.
So, you play with quotes. Yeah, when it's authentically funny, and you're doing the fake it thing. Yes, I agree with you.
Sure.
Another notion is when I was trying to be an actor, was like it's like this beautiful poetic notion of like sometimes you just leap and learn to fly on the way down, right? And that philosophy led to me smashing my face on the floor numerous times in life.
Sure.
I absolutely took leaps and was like, nope.
Some of these idioms are not universal.
You don't become a magician in your late 30s because everything went right for you up until that point. So,
That's
lots of smashes.
Hey, you're still here and you're thriving, my friend. Did you bring a true fact with you that maybe you think there's little chance that I've heard before?
Okay, do you know the term petrichor?
Petrichor. I'm not sure I do.
That's the term an Australian scientist came up with in 1964 to describe the smell that we all realize we smell right before it rains.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the smell, like it's before it rains.
Yeah, like right before it rains, it's going to rain.
You know it's going to rain. Sure.
Yeah. And that's from but the word petrostone and ichor is blood of the gods. That's how much this guy viscerally wanted to name that term.
I would have assumed that there was some sort of scientific basis for that. I had no idea.
Oh, it's a romantically notioned named a name by an Australian scientist.
Well, that's so weird because that still leaves the question of what is it? Like you would think that the word, like once you looked up the term, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, the core, like I'm assuming this is like CHOR core, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's, I don't know. But like
CHOR.
CHOR, yeah. So you would think like, okay, well, that stands for this chemical that gets released from the ground or something. And then the Petra is like, a Latin word for something else. But
you're right and I'm wrong. It's when rain falls on dry soil. So you're right. It's
when it's actually raining.
Yeah. You're right. I'm wrong.
Well,
so there, my fact was fact checked by you, but you didn't know it.
But I'm going to coin a phrase for when the smell before it rains, and it's going to stand for air of the blood of the, I don't know, whispers of blood.
There may be a god about.
Whispers of blood. Hang on. I'm going to get into Google Translate. Text. Okay, we're going to do English, whispers of blood, and then we're going to go to Latin, and we're going to see what we can get here. Okay, so instead of petrichor, susuri sanguinis. Susuri sanguinis is what it's called. I'm just going to say sanguinis because that's a fun word, which probably is just blood, or of blood.
Susuri sanguinis is it's my nom de plume when I write my mystery novels.
Susuri sanguinis. All right, Mr. Sanguinis, let's get into the podcast. For the first question, we're going to play for a joke. If you get it wrong, you got to tell me a joke. If you get it right, I'll tell you one. Which one of these describes the Battle of Blair Mountain? Was it A, a Civil War skirmish over Appalachian territory, B, a labor uprising by coal miners in 1921, or C, a dispute over land use between native tribes and settlers?
Oh, those are all good options. I'll go with A.
A, the answer is B, a labor uprising by coal miners in 1921. But you would have thought that it was a Civil War skirmish because 10,000 coal miners fought for union rights against anti-union forces. There were airplanes dropping bombs, trenches, guns. They say 1 million rounds of ammunition were fired. And it was just like a few days. The Battle of Blair Mountain, the anti-union forces won. The corporation won on this one. So pretty gross, yeah. But that's largely because the president got involved and kind of quashed the rebellion. He took the side of the coal mines and said, we need to shut this down. Sent in United States soldiers to help settle this thing. So yeah, Pretty gross.
Like to be physically involved?
What's that? The Army?
Yeah.
I believe so. It must have been before. What's the doctrine that they're not allowed to operate on U.S. soil? Like maybe it was before that existed or something. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, they basically, when that is what really put an end to the thing, is these miners realized there's no way they could win. It's over. So yeah, it was pretty
That's
gross.
awful.
Pretty gross. Yeah. Do you have a joke? Do you owe me a joke?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Sissus.
Sissus who?
Sissus sanguinis.
Sanguinus.
I like that joke because you can smell the punchline. You know what I mean?
I could smell it coming before it happened. Oh man. Okay, let's question 2. Which major U.S. company faced a historic warehouse union victory in Bessemer, Alabama in 2021?
Okay.
Modern U.S. company faced a historic warehouse union vote. This was Bessemer, Alabama, 2021. Was it A, Target, B, Amazon, or C, Costco?
I believe it was Amazon.
It was Amazon. Amazon faced national scrutiny and media attention when warehouse workers in Bessemer organized a union vote. This sparked renewed interest in labor organizing across industries. Of course, we know that other companies like Starbucks have also had this sort of thing going on and still going on forever.
Right.
But,
if I remember correctly, the articles were like, yes, you can win the union vote, but then they have to still come up with all this stuff and go back and forth until they settle on a way that it is organized.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember it. I mean, I remember it happening because I remember one of the more sensational headlines that came out was that Amazon was making their drivers, or maybe it was the factory or the warehouse workers, like pee in bottles because they weren't giving them bathroom breaks. That was that was one of the big like sensational headlines, is like, if you work for Amazon, you don't get to go to the bathroom, you got to pee in a bottle.
Well, there's the horror story about, I think it was bear spray, right? While we're remembering things and not having all the facts. A thing of bear spray like fell and like went off and like it actually like hurt people.
Oh,
and
I don't remember this.
And they were like allowed to go home that day, but were expected to come like right back the next day or something.
I searched Amazon bear spray. That was not the correct search term, because now I just have links to bear spray. Here we go. This is December 6, 2018. 24 Amazon workers sent to hospital after robot accidentally unleashes bear spray. Why do they have a bear spray robot in the factory at Amazon?
Hold on, guys. Everyone step back. We got to look for bears.
Okay, because they sell it.
Step away from the line.
The robot punctured a can of bear spray. That headline makes it seem like the robot had the bear spray like integrated into its
like,
the
like
robot
Batman
body
with a utility belt, like ready to fight off.
Yeah,
anyone.
there's like an Inspector Gadget with bear spray as one of the things. Like, don't say the magic word or else it will bear spray you. The magic word is organize. Oh no. Yeah. That's all right. Well, I forgot to tell you what we were playing for that one. We were playing for an abandoned West Virginia coal mine. So I'll send that to you in the mail.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Playing for a sticker for question number 3, as we always do. Playing for a sticker. And here's your question. Which 20th century U.S. law most directly strengthened the right of workers to unionize and bargain collectively? Was it A, the Sherman Antitrust Act, B, the National Labor Relations Act, otherwise known as the Wagner Act, or C, the Fair Labor Standards Act? So it was the Sherman Antitrust Act, the National Labor Relations Act, or the Fair Labor Standards Act?
Those all sound like good candidates. Good
This
job
one's hard.
on your quiz writing. So the Sherman Act, I don't think that's one I'm eliminating right away, unless that's going to make me look like a fool. Let's see. The other two, what was the other two?
The second one was the Wagner Act, which is another term for the National Labor Relations Act. The third one was the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Well, I'm going to go with Wagner because someone would take credit for creating that act. So I'm going to go with Wagner over Sherman.
You are correct. The answer is Wagner, the National Labor Relations Act, 1935. This was, and it gave workers the legal right to form unions and collectively bargain. This changed labor rights in the U.S. for all of us, which was great. So you get a sticker next time I see you.
It's very important, listeners, that they realize that I got that out of gamesmanship and not out of knowledge. So very, very good.
That's part of this. That's part of life. There's no right or wrong way to play this quiz. Now, you got on the ship yesterday, and you had 2 shows last night on your first night on the ship, yeah?
I did. I went right into I basically, if you want to tow around two bags of 50 pounds of stuff, that'll help you close your rings out on your watch, no problem.
Nice.
No extra exercise needed.
I can't. Yeah, the travel day and show day together is rough. That's rough, and I have not had that happen on a ship yet, where I get on board and they're like, "Oh, you're on tonight." I haven't had that happen yet. I keep waiting for it to happen, and as much as it's like a surprise, like we know our shows, you're ready for it. That's fine. It's just the energy and managing your energy, but the positive side of that is like it almost feels like a free cruise when you're done performing. Like once you're done, you're like, oh, I don't have to. It's it. I'm just here now until the next.
Yeah, port. I mean, that's what I'm doing. We're all at sea, so I mean, they're all at sea days on my free cruise. So basically, I'm just trying not to eat all the time. It's basically the number one goal is do anything besides eat.
It's hard, and I don't eat healthy things on the cruise ship, because it's a buffet and I have the choice, and I'm a child, and I'm like, exactly. Pizza 24/7. Okay.
Multiple desserts look delicious over here.
Yeah. No one's stopping me. Yeah. Maybe if my wife got on the ship with me, that would be better. She would keep me from like, why are you eating that again? That's what you had for lunch, But like I said, I'm a child.
I am on a ship where they're like, oh, you're going to get good energy from the audience because this is only an 18-day cruise. And I said, 18 days? That sounds long to me. And I said, yeah. Well, the one we did before that was 110 days.
I did one of those. It was 129 days world cruise. And it wasn't good for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm not going to mention the line, but number one, no one spoke English.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I do an act with a lot of talking, as do you.
Right.
It makes it very difficult. And number two, I was toward the end. I was only on the ship for 9 days out of 129 days or whatever they were on for. And these folks they were just done. The crew and the passengers. I think they were over it by the point I got on the ship. They were just kind of like, oh, so tired of being on a ship all the time. So it's rough. But 18 days.
The mentality is like, like in Vegas, like Penn and Teller will talk about like how audiences, when you're one of 10 things they're doing that week.
Sure.
Right. And so they come out, they just start the show. So when they tour, they're often surprised about the applause that happens when they simply take the stage when they're on tour.
Interesting. Sure.
And so that mentality helped me. The Vegas mentality helped me come over to cruise ships where you're like, oh, I'm one of the, 1,000 things they've done this week, including seeing the Panama Canal. So I'm automatically second billing the time.
Sure.
At best, the time they set foot. And so, yeah, certain things that I think would have offended me or hurt my feelings, I just rolled past last night where there were definitely multiple people asleep during my show.
Yeah.
And normally I would call a lot of attention to that. And I just rolled past that. I was like, nope, they've had a long day. They were in a room all day.
Territory. Yeah. Wow. So for question 4, we're going to play for a mention on your podcast. You've got a couple podcasts. You are, of course, Matt and Mattingly's Ice Cream Social is a big show that you do. You've also got Abracababble, which is more just magician focused. So if you get this one wrong, a mention of this show on the podcast. If you get it right, a mention of this show on one of your podcasts. Question 4. Which major public figure voiced strong support for the striking actors and writers in 2023? Was it A, Elon Musk, B, Fran Drescher, C, Steven Spielberg?
Fran Drescher famously spoke up for the union during the Some people behind the lines said almost too much so. She was so fiery. Some people felt like she actually might have hurt some negotiations at some points. But those are some people, not common knowledge. But yeah, Fran Drescher is a big time speaker for the actors and writers.
You got it. Fran Drescher, who was SAG-AFTRA president during that strike, became a leading public voice for labor rights in the entertainment industry. I hadn't heard any pushback about that. I mean, obviously the studios are pushing back. That's why they were striking in the first place. But yeah,
I listen to like insider podcasts and stuff. So it's like I don't think I'm speaking for any real word on the street.
Yeah. Are you SAG-AFTRA member?
Yes.
From writing?
Yeah.
Now, do you have to do a certain number of SAG-AFTRA gigs every year to keep that membership? How does that work?
For SAG-AFTRA, once you're in, as long as you pay your dues, you're in.
Okay.
In fact, I get my dental and vision from SAG-AFTRA.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember, like, in my days, and someday I'll do this again, but I used to do like TV commercials and stuff regionally, and I could do. It was either one or two non-union gigs or SAG-AFTRA gigs. If I was non-union, I could do one or two before I had to join, before I could do more SAG-AFTRA gigs. There's a break-in period that you can have, or
it's tricky. It's tricky around the beginning. Yeah,
because then if you become SAG-AFTRA in a regional market like this, there aren't nearly as many jobs because most of the jobs here are non-union. So
right, and they're not going to get pressured to make union work out in that region.
No, and the pay is better, but it's not enough to make up for the lack of gigs. It's sort of what I found. It might be different now. It's been a few years since I've really been in that. So you've done very well. You've got that one right, which means you have to give me a mention on one of your shows. You've gotten a sticker, because for the Wagner Act, and what else? You get an abandoned West Virginia coal mine. So you're 3 for 4 so far, but this next one is for everything, Matt. If you get this one right,
I wasn't sure where I was going to put the sticker. Then you reminded me about the coal mine.
Yeah, it'll go on one of the shafts. You will not have an unadorned shaft in your coal mine.
I'll need. Sorry, I'll need a bunch of them. I'll need a bunch of them just so I can know which shaft I went down and how to get back out.
Yes. I often say that these stickers make great breadcrumbs. It's sort of the best thing to use these for. And also, I will do an anti-advertisement. These stickers were printed by Sticker Mule, who I will never use again.
We stopped using them also.
If you go on Sticker Mule's X page, oh my God, it is awful. That's as much as I'll say. It's awful. But I will say I just made I gotta find the email because I just made a sticker order yesterday. Stickerapp.com was an awesome website, very easy to use. The prices were very competitive, great prices. And those stickers, this was yesterday I ordered them. They're already in the mail. They're ready to come here. So we've got new stickers coming. They are not the internet says it's true stickers. They're Michael Kent stickers. So those will be at shows going forward.
I recently had a good work with Print Keg.
Print Keg.
Print Keg. Yeah.
I'll check them out as well. Print Keg. Always looking for places for that. In the college market, they made us stop using stickers at like conferences. We weren't allowed to give them out in the trade show floor because people were the conference was, or the organization was getting fined by the conference center because they were finding the stickers stuck to the cement floors in these conference halls. So
that was right after they banned the giving out of gum, right?
Yeah,
putting their gum
so
underneath.
There's so many rules. And none of it matters anymore because no one's booking college shows anymore. So all of those rules should just go away now. We're going to treat it like the American economy and deregulate everything and just see what happens. It'll be a wild west.
Oh boy.
So we have one last question, and if you get this one right, you are welcome back anytime. If you get it wrong, I'm probably going to delete your number from my telephone.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's serious. Here's your question, Matt. What is the worst job you've ever had, and what would have made it better?
Let's see here. I mean, I worked I worked for Starbucks, but that was actually a really good gig at the start. But I transferred. I tried to move to San Diego, and so I'm debating both jobs I had in San Diego were nightmares. I had a catering job and a Starbucks job, and I had to work both 7 days a week just to afford to live on a friend's couch in San Diego.
Wow.
I thought it'd be cool to move there. I didn't really think things through then. My fault. I think we discussed earlier, became a magician at 39.
Sure.
So but the Starbucks, I had a terrible boss, and we were at a rush hour spot. So like basically you had to get there at 5 a.m, and it was just slammed chaos for 3.5 hours, and then I'd be dead last like 4 hours of your shift. And so it just took all the energy out of me, and I had a boss who was a really nitpicky jerk, and so that was a really tough one.
First of all, that is a correct answer. Second of all, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say the dead hours at the end probably more tiring than the busy hours, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because at first, the first few weeks I was there, that rush hour was crazy to me. I really was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired today. Really couldn't get through it. Then you get the hang of it.
Sure.
And then, because I was also like, coming from my Starbucks, I was the fastest on both, either both making drinks or on register. Like I could just zip. And suddenly I was put into a place where like, no, you're not. Like, it's like going from college to pro, I guess, or something. Like, I don't know what the metaphor is, but I was like, oh, I was like the fastest guy. And then just not the case. And then they did organizationally did things slightly different than the one I was trained at, right? So you're like, oh no, which is and so it was a real anxiety nightmare. And I got called in the office multiple times, like a school child, and just be lectured at by the boss. And I was like, what have I done in life where I'm still getting lectures about stuff like this? This is terrible.
That is a correct answer, and it probably didn't help that you were sleeping on a couch. You weren't getting a full good REM. You don't get into REM sleep when you're on a couch, so that doesn't help.
I could use a little more self-examination there. Yeah, I probably wasn't my best worker.
They're like, this guy just doesn't seem well rested. Not sure what's going on here, but this Sanguinus guy, we need to get rid of him immediately.
Sanguinus, my office.
Yeah. First of all, that's a name that you can't write on a cup. And secondly, all right, Matt Donnelly, you can see him if you search for the Mind-Noodler online. See him on Instagram. It's Mind-Noodler, and he's performing in a city near you. He's been touring all over the place. Happy to have you back on the show, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love doing this show.
That's it for this week. Thank you so much to Matt Donnelly for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's the voice of a kid who is currently in a labor dispute with his mother.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 USC Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.